So in this series, we've been looking at the aspirations question, and we've done a couple of episodes where we've looked at that. I'll put the show notes, put the links to those in the show notes.
Yeah.
And we've got more data this time. And what we thought would be quite useful, or what you thought would be quite useful, this was your suggestion, wasn't it? So we are going to be looking at basically those text-based answers, which you described a couple of episodes ago, where people can basically choose from a text-based answer, and that basically informs sort of the whole response and the risk rating and everything. So
yeah, and the conversation, there's about 8 responses that we went through that people can ask, and we've actually put them into sort of 6 themes, if you like, in terms of how people have answered them. So I just thought it would be quite interesting to know, as an average, how are we benchmarking that? Like, how many people are happy where they are? How many people want to move on? How many people might want more responsibility? So I think it's probably quite a useful thing to know that on average, from all of our users that answered this question, these are the percentages. And yeah, I think it is, I don't think it's surprising, but it's interesting.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So what I'll do is, if you're on YouTube, I'll put this up on the screen so you can see. If you're on an audio channel, what I'll quickly do is I'll run us through the 6, and then you can take over then and give us the insight as usual. So what I'll do is I'll go from the top, so like the most popular response, if you like. So with 45%, the most popular response was, I'm happy or comfortable as is. Second most popular was, I want to progress / move forward. That's 30%. Next one with 10% was, I'm happy but want more responsibility or challenges. Next one with 8% is not sure about staying or future plans. Then we've got 3%, which is my future isn't here. And then with the last one, which is a bit less than 3% of people said, I want my career to be here, but not sure what that looks like.
Yeah.
So which end do you want to go from?
I don't mind. Let's start with, I want my career to be here, but not sure what that looks like, because that feels to me like the one that is low-hanging fruit, if you like. If you know that those people exist. So, that's depending on the size of your organisation, obviously. That could be quite a few people that want their career to be within that organisation, but they haven't found their place yet. So often that's people that really love what the business is doing, but they're not quite sure what their path is within that. And that sometimes is as easy as communicating things differently, that you don't have to follow a linear path. So just because you started off, working behind a bar doesn't mean that you couldn't go and work in the kitchen. Just because you started off operationally doesn't mean you couldn't end up in marketing or in, people and culture. So I think that one is, for anybody who has access to this data about their people, I'd say that just double check that the managers are having that conversation and do have, really dug deep into what does that person want to do, because they're saying they want to stay with you. So let's find them a place if applicable. I mean, let's look at it against their performance as well. But yeah, if, people are keen to stay, then we want to do something with them and without them. And yep, 3% doesn't sound like a lot, but, in a company of 5,000 people, it is. And they're people that you probably want to hang on to. People, I think, going up to the next one. So the 5th most popular answer, so my future isn't here. When we first started putting this question into the system, people would say to us, no one's going to answer that truthfully. And I think that probably in some cultures, that still is very much the case. We put it in there just to almost open it up for organisations and say, it's okay if your future isn't here. We're just going to help you get to where you want to be, and it doesn't have to be here. So this one, I think, in reality, is probably a little bit higher, because I don't believe that only 3% of people like are thinking, I'm probably not going to stay here for the long term. But again, this is all about understanding what people do want to do. And if their future isn't with you, that's okay. But wouldn't it be great to know that? And wouldn't it be great to help them develop towards what they do want to do? So that one, I still maintain that creating a culture of openness and transparency and it being okay to say, I'm only going to be here for a finite amount of time is totally the right thing to do. And I suppose one of the reasons we have it in there is to help companies build that culture. And then the next one, so I'm not sure about staying or my future plans. So that's people who have answered, I'm not sure, when they've asked what's next. And again, it's about 8% of people. Again, those people they're probably your almost engaged people. I don't know if anybody's heard of or seen, there's a Blessing White model of engagement. And in that, it's almost like a pyramid, and in the bottom quadrant are actively disengaged people. And so they're often your people that will say, my future isn't here and could be detrimental towards the organisation. And a lot of people focus on getting people that are actively disengaged up to being really engaged. But actually, what we would say is, look, almost if those people don't want to be there, you're putting all your time and effort into that. And the people that you should be putting your time and effort into are the people that are saying they're not sure, or, they're on the edge, because they're surely much easier to convert into being super engaged. So again, it's about understanding who those people are and, through coaching style questions, making sure that managers are sitting down with them and understanding, what do they like about their job? What don't they like about their job? What are their challenges? There's lots of things and ways that you can dig into that and understand and help make them sure. And again, it doesn't have to be, let's convince them to stay here. Here might not be right for them, but it's about, there shouldn't, in an ideal world, you shouldn't have anybody that isn't sure about what their future is, because it'd be quite nice to have people working towards whatever it is that they want to do and to help them. And then number 3, so I'm happy, but I want more responsibility or challenges, 10% of people. Happy days. People want to do more stuff, have more responsibility, but don't necessarily want to progress. They're the dream people, right? They're obviously in the 9-box grid. They would sit in the middle. They'd be your foundation people, and they want to do more. So again, make sure give them the work. My adage is, whenever anyone's worked for me, it's always been, I'm just going to give you stuff, and when it's too much, you tell me. Just pile it on, because people want to be challenged. They want to be stretched. And so I think that setting expectations and giving people, giving them more is a good thing to do.
Is it? Definitely.
And then, so number 2, so the second highest, I want to progress and move forward, 30% of people. So, in most organisations, having 30% of people wanting to move on and wanting to progress is actually fairly challenging, because there usually aren't 30% of exactly the right roles open at any one time. And so that's about, again, having really open and honest conversations with people around, what does progression look like for you? Where do you want to get to? Are there other things that we can do with your development between now and potentially moving up to that next role? Are you ready? Lots of stuff with that response that you can really, again, dig deep with those people and let them know what it will look like to move here. No false promises, just making sure that they're very clear about what the path could look like, and making sure that they're on board with whatever that looks like, but also that whatever you promise as an organisation, that you follow through with that. So it's no good saying to somebody, oh, yeah, let's talk about that again in 6 months, by then you'll be ready, because then in 6 months' time you need to action it. So it's just about being super clear and super honest. And then 45%, isn't it? 45% of people are happy Yay! We love these people. These are the best people. So these are your people that are engaged, that are happy, that don't want to go anywhere. They're probably doing a really good job. And that's not to say that if they're also performing really well, that they shouldn't be mentors or be buddies or, you know, cover stuff when people go on holiday. You know, it's these people that, again, you want to just keep making sure that you're checking in with. Don't assume because somebody is happy or comfortable now in March that they'll still feel the same in October. So it's that constant checking in and constant making sure. And, you know, you might start seeing patterns with people over time that, you know, they'll be happy, and then they'll want to progress and they'll get promoted and they'll be happy. And then, you know, as they move on through the organisation. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's not, I don't think any of these statistics are particularly surprising. I think that so many people want to progress is something that businesses need to really get hold of and understand how conversations are happening to ensure that people aren't overpromised or don't leave because there's nothing there for them when there might be something there for them. So I'd say for, you know, if you know the numbers from, you know, whatever technology you use, if you know your percentages, it would be really interesting to see where you fall if you benchmark against this. And I'd say, you know, having 30% of people that want to progress and move forward is quite high. And so it would probably tell me that we're probably not having super honest conversations around what it takes to move to the next level. We know that the generation that are coming into the workforce are super keen to get ahead. You know, anecdotally, the number of times I've heard somebody in their early 20s wanting to be, you know, director of business by the time they're 30, you know, and it does sometimes take a bit of time and a bit of work to get to that level. But people want it and they want it now. So I think it's, again, just about being super clear and honest and transparent about what you can offer and how you're going to help them get there.
Superb. Fantastic breakdown, that. So I just had a couple of thoughts really on this, and one at both ends of the spectrum, I guess. So the only one I found surprising was the lowest one. I want my career to be here, but not sure what that looks like. For me, when I read that as somebody who's quite basically just doesn't know what they want with their life. Have I read that wrong? Like, that to me, that's, if somebody said that in response to a question I put out, I sort of think that person's maybe a bit younger. They've not really decided what they want to do with their career, so they're just kind of happy as they are for now.
I think if they were just happy as they were for now, they'd probably, that's a response.
Which is the opposite end of the scale, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm happy as I am for now. I think this one, I want my career to be here, but not sure what that looks like, is that sometimes people fall in love with the organisation and they might not necessarily love what they're doing, but they love working for the business. And so, you know, it would be nice if that was higher, to be honest, because that would show that the organisation, despite the job role, the organisation is doing something right. You know, if you love working somewhere so much that you're not sure what the future holds. But it also might be, I don't know what I want to do. But again, I don't know what I want to do, but I like working here. That's
kind of what I mean, really, because I think back to my 20s and I really didn't know what I wanted to do long term. You know, I tried various different industries and things like that. And I might have, but I really liked working at places. So I might have answered that response all throughout my 20s. You know, I probably did think I wanted my career maybe to be at that place because I really enjoyed working there, but didn't know what that looked like. So that's why I expected that one to be higher. Yeah. But I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. And I guess maybe it's a reflection of the fact that people in Carrero are having conversations more regularly.
Yes.
That they're not actually answering more like that. Because I think I said a couple of episodes ago, I've left all my previous jobs just on the fly. And it's because I don't ever remember having a career conversation, not once.
No. yeah, I mean, it's how I ended up doing what I was doing, because I had a proper career conversation. I would have stayed in both places that I worked before doing this. So you're right, there is a bias, obviously, with this data to people. These people are having these types of conversations.
I wouldn't use the word bias. I think it's you getting a more truthful response. Because you're having all these types of conversations more regularly, like we're talking about. I think if that was me and I was an employee, I'd be more likely to give a more thoughtful, truthful response.
Yeah, and also, I think that if you're a manager in one of the businesses that works for us, the business is taking people's careers seriously, right? So if somebody is saying, I want my career here, but I'm not sure what that looks like, I'm hoping that the managers in the businesses we work with would know how to handle that as a response. And therefore people might only answer that way once, if that makes sense, because the next time, hopefully they will have had a good enough career conversation that they will either have sort of said, oh no, actually I am really happy in my role, or no, okay, you're right, there isn't anything for me here, so therefore my future isn't here, or no, I've had the reassurance now that I am ready to progress and move on or take on more challenges. So, if you want your career to be here, but you're not sure what that looks like, your manager should be saying to you, okay, well, why don't you try this? And why don't you try that? And have you thought about this, that, and the other? So by the next time they have a career conversation, the response should be different. Whereas somebody answering, I'm happy and comfortable, or I'm happy as I am, or I'm comfortable doing what I'm doing. If they're answering that to a question, you'd expect that to happen over a period of time until the point in which there's change in leadership and they get pissed off and leave, or until they get promoted, in which case they'll move through from happy to comfortable to want to progress. Then they'll either progress or they won't. And yeah, so, I think people will answer, I'm happy and I want to progress, more often than once, if that makes sense. That would be a consistent theme for most people. Whereas you'd want to, my future isn't here, I want my career to be here, I'm not sure what that looks like, or I'm not sure about staying or what my future plans are. You'd hope that good leaders will move people out of those categories in that conversation they have.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned it, I think from an employer's point of view, it's actually quite good, isn't it, to have a whole spread, because if you've got a whole workforce who want promotions within the next 3 to 6 months, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's where things, love it or hate it, where the 9-box grid comes in, because once you've looked at and sort of decided that, as in the conversation, as the leader and the person that's having the conversation about them, you'll decide what this looks like, and that will then go and populate, or where are you on the grid, and this will then marry up to performance. So if you've got people that are saying my future isn't here, and they're not meeting their goals and living the values and getting on with their team, they probably shouldn't be in business. And that's a good conversation to have. You don't want people like that in your business. You want people that are fully engaged with what you're doing and believe in it and want to be there. So yeah, this becomes even more useful when you correlate it against performance.
Perfect. Superb. Well, I think that was a really detailed breakdown. Anything more to add? We've covered that really, haven't we?
I don't think so. I think that's it for today.
Perfect. So note to the listener, I will put all the links in the show notes so you can check out and follow along if you've missed the other ones. Other than that, I'll see you next week, Jo.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Perfect.